Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Conscious Counsel podcast with your host, Cory Sterling. That's me. I'm really excited and happy that you're here and that you and I get to hang out together and just chat like old pals do, just you and me, the two of us. So welcome, and I'm really, really happy. This week's episode is titled, Can I Really Fire My Clients? And by the way, if you have any feedback about my up-talking at the end as I introduce episode topics, you can always let me know. But I'm really, really excited to dive in and chat about this because this is something that I've seen a lot over my career working with health and wellness professionals. Someone who has a studio or a health coach or someone who's operating a retreat and is having a problem with one of their clients and wants to get their client out of their space. Energy is a real thing. Having people in your energetic space is a real thing. And so having the legal ability to do that is super important, and we're going to talk about that. Before I jump in, I just want to, let's put the cards on the table, okay? The intention of me recording this is to help you protect and grow your health and wellness business with confidence and clarity. That's the name of the game. It's always been the name of the game. That's what we're always going to be about. So I'm just trying to share very, very helpful and basic information that will guide you on this journey to feel that you have confidence and clarity really to take your business to the next level. So the reason why this topic matters is because you want to be in control of the relationship with the people that you work with. And if the people who are giving you money are bothering you, if they are annoying, if they are bothering your staff, if they're annoying other clients that you have, I mean, the list can go on and on and on about why it's so important to protect the space of your business and to ensure that you can choose who you work with. And so I want you to have that because I also know how stressful and heartbreaking and difficult it is when you have a challenging client and you don't have recourse to be able to get rid of them. And so there's two stories that I'm going to share today. One of them is about a retreat, and then one of them is about a studio. And both of them are going to dive into this question of at what point am I allowed to stop working with a client? And if I do decide to stop working with a client, what are my rights, and what does the process look like? And so this really just matters for you because you have an obligation to yourself to be excited to go to work and to feel awesome about the environment that you're creating. And you also have an obligation to your teachers or your staff, if you have a company and other people who work with you, to make sure that they're in a safe environment. And you also have an obligation to your other clients to make sure that the space that they are enjoying your services in is well protected and that it's safe and fun and easy and light and loving. So the principle that all of this falls under, it's always the same, just so you know, and I'm going to continue telling my stories and going through a little bit about what I experience, but it's the first piece always is going to be what agreement was signed by the parties. And so in this case, we're talking about something that could be a membership agreement, it could be a retreat agreement, it could be a service agreement, whatever it is, whoever. When someone's giving you money, you want to have a signed contract that outlines and communicates expectations openly and honestly. I'm going to repeat those words because they're really big. You're going to want to have a signed contract that communicates expectations openly and honestly. And the reason why is because when an issue comes up, you're not going straight to court. They're going to want a refund. You're going to try to kick them out. It's going to get really nasty. They're going to claim that you're discriminating against them. I've seen all of it. At the end of the day, the clearer you can have an agreement that communicates your expectations of what you letting them give you their money looks like, the better off you'll be if and when a problem comes up. Why? Because legal position is a real thing. And the ability for you to say to someone, hey, you got to leave. And the reason why you have to leave is because you broke our agreement. And this is exactly what part of the agreement you broke. And you're gone. And the agreement says that if you break the agreement, we're not giving you a refund. You have to leave immediately. You lose all privileges that otherwise you'd have. And then it's finished and it's done. So I'm going to go on and share a little bit of these two stories. One of them took place on a retreat. This is one of those stories for me that I'll never forget, where I was when I heard it and how I jumped into action and everything that took place. One of my clients was running a retreat, and they had a very, very big problem with one of the participants on the retreat who had already paid in full. And that person, the retreat participant, so my client is the retreat organizer. One of the people on their retreat, it was a recovering alcoholic who had relapsed during the course of the retreat. So very sad circumstances. It's very unfortunate that it happens. And when that person had succumbed to returning to drink alcohol, they got very, very, very intoxicated, and they started very aggressive behavior that put other participants of the retreat, as well as facilitators and staff of the retreat space, at danger. So first things first, these things really happen. I know I get to meet so many amazing people who are doing things, and I'll be on sales calls and I'll be like, look, this is why you need this agreement, and this is something that happened, and people don't believe me, but these things really happen. And so I got an email. I was in a taxi. I was in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, shout out to Orlando. What's up? Was not at, any of the Disney. It was a work trip, which is very rare for me. But I was in a taxi in Orlando, and I got an email that said, "Emergency, please call me." And I started working with the client. And luckily, in this situation, my client had purchased a retreat participant agreement from us. And it had a section about expectations and like, hey, these are the expectations we have in working in, in allowing you to participate in our retreat. You treat everyone with respect. You show up on time. You won't, no alcohol was specifically, it had a no alcohol provision. This person broke the agreement and obviously consumed alcohol. And so first things, we had to call the authorities to have the person removed, which was stressful in and of itself. And then the person, when they came to, they wanted to sue my client and said, hey, for all the reasons that someone would come up with, give me my money back, plus you embarrassed me, plus it hurt my reputation, whatever happens when you get into litigation stuff. And in that situation, it was very, very easy for me to say, and I say this every time, send me a copy of the signed agreement. And I had the signed agreement. I responded on behalf of my client. Hi, I'm really sorry this situation took place. Attaches a copy of your signed agreement. You signed a contract that said that you would not consume alcohol. Unequivocally, we can show that you broke this agreement. In addition to this, the agreement had a no refund provision in the event that you break the agreement. If you pursue an action against us, we reserve the right to counterclaim and for penalties and fees and everything else. And the issue went away. So that's a really, really good situation. And that's an example of what the story looks like when you have the proper agreements from the start. Now, if my client did not have proper agreements that were specific to the relationship they wanted to have, it would be a completely different story. And now not only have other participants been affected by this traumatic situation, but they might have to even give this person their money back or get into some form of, they just wanted it to be over. That's usually what my clients are looking for. The second situation took place with a studio that had a member who was behaving suspiciously. And it was a yoga studio, and the member who was behaving suspiciously was a male. Most of the studio members were females. And in this case, my client did not have a membership agreement. After I helped them, we got them a membership agreement. But we got into a very, very difficult situation because we didn't really have any evidence or proof that these things were happening, but we had reports from other people that the person was making them feel uncomfortable and behaving suspiciously. And I said, once I was engaged, I said my magic words, please send me a copy of the signed agreement. And what I had received was a general template, very, very basic, like 1.5 pages, doesn't mention anything about behavioral expectations in the agreement. And then now I'm in a position where I'm like, okay, well, we have to get this person out of the studio, and we don't want to provide a refund to them because, they've been using the services for however long. And the person had said, okay, well, if you kick me out, A, you're not allowed to, and B, you're refunding me all of the money that I've ever spent in your business. And again, it was a situation where the legal position that we were in, and you can just go back to episode 1 and check out the episode on legal position, which is the foundation for everything that I talk about in all of these episodes. And in that situation, we didn't have the strongest legal position, and we had to negotiate with this person and sign an agreement that they wouldn't come and some sort of like settlement to prevent them from coming to the studio because we weren't able to prove everything. But most importantly, there was nothing in the agreement that outlined what behavioral expectations the studio had of the member. And one of the things that I put in all of the studio membership agreements is a provision which basically says like, hey, in the event that we are suspicious of any form of behavior, we're allowed to bring it to your attention. And if there's anything that gives us cause of concern that others at the studio, that their health or safety might be in danger, we reserve the right to terminate this agreement and not provide a refund to you. And if in that situation, my client had, the studio owner had that agreement, it would be very easy to deal with. Send me a copy of the agreement. I'll send an email to the person. Instead, they were very, very stressed for a long period of time. And it didn't happen overnight. And even as it was happening, the person was still coming to the studio because my client wasn't sure, what can I do? Whenever you're dealing with difficult people, you're dealing with difficult people. So the member was saying, I'm going to go to the press and I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to post about this and all these different things that just made it difficult for us. And then in the end, my client had to pay a lot of money, much more so than it would have cost to originally just have a membership agreement that took care of it. So those are two different examples. In this case, we have one good story where we had the retreat agreement, working with clients, we're allowed to fire you. These are the terms, no refund. In the second story, we didn't have the agreement. We had to negotiate with the person. We had to, sort of scratch and claw and in the end come to some form of settlement plus my legal fees in order to resolve the situation. In the end, we were able to do it, but it was more expensive that way. But to bring all of this in for a landing and just summarize it, the idea is, are you allowed to fire your clients? Yes, you are. And the easiest and most efficient and most cost-effective way to fire your clients is to have an agreement that communicates your expectations openly and honestly. This matters to you because you don't want to be in a situation where you don't want someone in your space or you don't want someone working with one of your team members and you can't get rid of them. And I've just seen it many, many times, and I never want to see it again. So that's it. I've told you, we've gone over it, and now you have all of the information. So included in the link to this episode, I'm going to put in a calendar link to book a call with someone from our team to have a free consultation. Just let us know that you heard us on the podcast and that you loved it, and whatever questions you have, we'll be here to support you. And just, again, this deals with a membership agreement, a retreat agreement, a service agreement. Anytime that you are working with a client, you have to have a specific contract with that person that communicates expectations openly and honestly and, makes it their fault without a refund in the event that they break it. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I had a really good time hanging out with you. And whatever you do, make sure that you work with a lawyer who loves you.